Oh God, here we go again. Let's again talk about a topic that I know for sure gets me the most hate when I make videos. And that topic being transgender athletes in sports. More specifically, trans women in female sports. My fucking God, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse at this point. Biology, you guys, is a bit of a bitch. If I can choose to be 6'4" and absolutely jacked out of my mind, I would probably take that option. But I am not under any delusion, and I am aware that genetics is a very real thing. Just like the genetics of a biological male and a biological female. Let's begin with the female's heart compared to men, which is 1/4 the size of a man's heart. And then we can jump to the volume difference between men and women's lungs, which is typically 10 to 12% smaller than men's lungs. And of course, this is comparing both height and age. And then we jump over to red blood cell count where, you guessed it, men have more red blood cells than women do. And I can only assume you know what red blood cells do. And if you guess carrying oxygen throughout your body and your lungs, well, you guessed correctly. So not to put you guys through a biology class on all the differences between a man and a woman, when you add up these few things, larger heart, larger lungs, more red blood cells, what do you think the answer to this equation is? I'm going to leave it up to you guys to do the math there. And of course, there are a bunch of other biological differences, but this isn't biology class, so we're not going to deep dive into biology today. But we are going to jump into the headline of today's story from the Post-Millennial. 2 trans cyclists dominate Chicago women's race. The only biological female on the podium was Kristen Chalmers, who placed third, which I'm sure you guys can do this math. That means the first place and second place were held by, you guessed it, trans women, better known as biological males. A pair of trans-identified males placed the first and second at the Illinois Cycling Championship race on December 3rd, topping a field of biological females. Tessa Johnson came in first place at the Illinois State Cyclocross Champions women's single-speed category, while Evelyn Williamson came in second. The only biological female on the podium was Kristen Chalmers, who placed third. The championships took place in Montrose Beach on December 3rd, marking the final race in the 8-race Chicago Cyclocross Cup. Johnson finished the women's 4-lap single-speed race just over 2 minutes ahead of Williamson, who finished 1 minute and 20 seconds ahead of Chalmers. Johnson also took part in the women's category half race, taking third place and $100 in prize money according to Reddix. So Johnson being 2 minutes ahead of the next person, who was also another biological male, who was 1 minute and 20 seconds ahead of the only female that placed in the top 3. So that means the difference between first and third place was 3 minutes and 20 seconds, which is a lifetime in any race of any kind. 3 minutes and 20 seconds is not just a gap, it is a fucking Grand Canyon of a difference. Chicago Cyclocross Cup states that transgender racers are welcome here, adding that the Cup has always been first and foremost about fostering a positive and supportive community built around competitive cyclocross racing, and it means welcoming and challenging everyone who wants to contribute to the series and make it better. I don't know in what fantasy land putting men into a women's race somehow makes that better for anyone, or for really any sports competition for that matter. I'm still trying to figure this out to this day after all these stories I've read. In what world does having biological men who were masquerading as women competing against biological women somehow better for any sport? There's obviously a reason why we have separated men's sports from women's sports for so many years, and it has nothing to do with misogyny. It has everything to do with biology. We do have a couple of tweets here from some very predominant people. Starting off with Vivek Ramaswamy, this mental health epidemic has reached new heights. Could not honestly agree more. You have to be living in complete delusion to think that this makes sense at all. The next tweet being from Riley Gaines, the very well-known swimmer from Kentucky who swam against Leah Thomas, or William Thomas, and has been fighting tooth and nail to save women's sports. 2 men take first and second at the Illinois State Cyclocross Championships yesterday. At USA Cycling has 2 categories for men and none for women. Any woman who concedes and doesn't compete, I will personally pay them the prize money they're missing out on. Stop participating in this farce. And Riley actually has a really good point here. I would like to see biological women standing up to this nonsense by just simply not competing. And I know that is a lot to ask from these women who have been, competing their entire lives for these moments. But ultimately, the fastest, most effective way for this to get fixed is if these biological women simply don't show up for the race. If only the trans women showed up to compete, it would be more than enough to make the heads of these organizations realize that they need to go. Biological women only in this event. But as always, you guys, I want to know what you're thinking in those comments down below. Do you think I'm transphobic for wanting biological women to compete against, biological women? Or do you think I might be onto something here? And all hate-filled comments are welcome, of course. And as always, do not forget to hit that like or that dislike button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you hopefully get notified every time I post a new video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.